So, I got ourselves a little bit of an issue with this wheel. So, see the shiny spots around the lugs? The lug nuts. Every once in a while, we get one that loosens up, or the wheels crack, or something happens. I do my best to torque them all and to make sure they're all torqued correctly, but like I say, every once in a while you get one that loosens up. So, I mean, you get rust and stuff on the threads. Sometimes you can't get a very good torque spec out of them. But so what we got to do is these wheels are no longer usable because of that. So we got to get 2 wheels and a hub. I don't know if you can see in there, but you see how where the wheel sits on that raised section? That's actually what centers the wheel on the hub. And you get some wear in them. So as the tire was moving around, it wore them out. So it's not going to sit right anymore. So we gotta change out the hub and the wheels. So to do that, we have to pull the axle out. Obviously take the nut off the end of the hub there, and then yeah, pull it out. Put a new hub on, new seals. I'll probably reuse the bearings, and yeah. So hopefully I don't have a broken wheel on the inside, and that's why it came loose, because that can happen too. And if the wheel breaks, it kind of makes a mark in the drum. So you'd have to change the drum too if the drum is damaged, but we'll see when we get there. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be the problem. I think it's just kind of loosened up. You can see how the holes are all egged out. That's why I can't reuse the wheel. It usually chews into the wheel stud as well. So at the minimum you'd have to change the wheel studs and the wheels, providing it didn't get into the hub. So, as you can see, the inside wheel is cracked, which is probably why it loosened up. Alright, so I got the wheel off. Came off alright. You gotta pull the drum. I get this end jacked up higher, so it's kind of tipping, so we can get the oil to run that way, and it won't just keep leaking out of the differential out this end. Yeah, I'm gonna have some spillage come out because there's gonna be oil in this hub here. This takes synthetic oil, so you're gonna want to put synthetic oil back in. You don't really want to mix them. I do have jack stand there just in case, and I got the wheels chocked, so what we got to do, let the brakes off so we get this drum off, and then we gotta pull these nuts off here so we can get the axle out. Hoping I have enough room between there and there. Should be close. I mean, I think I do. And yeah, so we got the axle out. It's a big nut in there. Take the nut off. Then you're gonna have your bearings inner and outer, and pull the hub off. And wait for the new one to come. So I'm pulling that off, it was kind of binding. So a little pressure here, like that, and hitting it there. Kind of pushed it down as I was pulling it back, so it kind of straightened it out. A lot of times you gotta loosen up your brakes on the slack adjuster, but these are fairly new brakes, so I didn't think there was a groove or anything worn into them. They were just kind of stuck on there. You don't want to hit it too hard with a hammer because you can crack the drum. Some axles have a little cone in there. You want to be careful with the cone in there. You got to kind of like shock it to get the cone to pop out because they will go flying. I don't know if these have the cone in there. Sometimes they got a lock washer or something on them. But like I say, some axles do have a tapered cone that goes in here underneath these nuts. See? Of course. Well, I got it out, and it's a lot of axle. It's probably 4 feet long. I just lowered the jack, and then I went under the tub because it was hitting it square right centered in the tub. So like I said, I just lowered the jack and it brought it down, and I went under. So I mean, I was probably a foot from coming out, and I only had about that much of the spine showing. So anyway, so take this axle nut off. Be aware there are multiple, well, not multiple, I mean obviously there's multiple size axle nuts, but they also have them where there are different types. So there's the flats that you have on here, this has 8 of them. Generally, a nut has 6, so you need a special socket to remove it if you have the 8. I think there's some that have 5. It's just they got some weird nuts too, and this is basically there's 2 of them here, so it looks like there's a washer between them. So the washer is going to have a key in it, so the washer won't turn. So basically, you set your preload with the inside nut, you put the washer on, which keys into this, so that washer won't turn, and then you tighten this other nut down on top of it. They have other types of nuts that have you got to lock the nut in by bending the washer over. This isn't that style. They have other ones that have a keyed snap ring. So basically you get one nut. You thread the nut in, and then you have the snap ring, and inside the nut there's a bunch of splines cut into it. And then you get the snap ring that goes in there, and it fits into the splines, and it also fits into the key here, and it locks it in by that too. So there's a bunch of different types of axle nuts you can get. Some of the other international ones, I think they're the older ones, they have a nut with some locking tabs in it, and then the nut has a washer attached to it that goes up against the bearing, and you spin the nut on, and then the washer also keys into here. And then once you get it tight, you pull the socket off, and then there's these little spring-loaded tabs that open up into a bunch of grooves around the outside of the nut. So you have to actually depress those tabs, and I guess what happens is a lot of them they'll break off and stuff, and you got to make sure they're all the way in, otherwise you'll just break the little tip off the locking tab, and then the nut can spin loose. But anyway, so there's a bunch of different types. This one in particular, I measured it. I think it seemed like it was 4 7/8 around there. The socket I'm using is a 4 7/8. So they get pretty big if you haven't dealt with them before. So we'll take those nuts off and pull that hub off. We might pull those off. So I'm gonna put these in. So I'll put some towel on the brake shoes, so when I pull this off I'm not dumping a bunch of oil on them. There's that. So this lock washer on this goes into a pinhole. So there's a hole or a stud on this one that this lines up with, and then this keys in. So you got to have that, I guess, in kind of the right spot. But I bet if you turn it, it offsets the holes too. So see the little stud on there? So the new hub should come with the cones already installed. If you don't have them in there, you're either going to have to get a driver to drive them in, or what I will do is I will use like the old bearings, and I'll drive the new race in with the old bearings and just keep kind of rotating it as I do it, and then I change the bearings, because I wouldn't want to use them again after that. If you can't, if you get one that doesn't have the cups in there, or cones, whatever they call them, cups I think. So that is an option. But I would suggest trying not to do that because they are expensive. So just gotta pull this off, and now we're all set with this end. So I just gotta wait for the hub to come and put the new hub in. There we go. It probably work better if I used 2 washers, or if I took the time and kind of made a bridge between them. Just make sure you don't mess up anything on there prying. So there's that. I got a flat tire, so I go off. And the glove. Yeah. All right, so I got my hub. It's a web hub, I'll get you the part number for it. When I called, they told me that it comes with axle or comes with wheel studs, but it doesn't come with the axle studs. So when it arrived, I find it comes with axle studs, but it doesn't come with wheel studs. So I'm ready to go get some wheel studs. It's part number for the wheel studs. So I'm installing these. So what I'm doing is I'm using ball joint press with my wheel studs piece of bar there. So basically I'm just kind of driving them in a little bit and getting them started, and then I'm using the press to run them in. You could probably pound them in with a hammer if you want. I don't want to go swinging too wildly because I do not want to hit the tone ring here. So like I said, I'm using ball joint press to get them in. It's a little less swinging, and I don't know, works all right. So we'll get those put in. I'll take the one, put it in there. Get started. Two. So I'm just going to repeat the process so we get all 10 of them in there, and we'll put the bearing in, the seal, and bring it over there and stick it on. Alright, so got some part numbers for you. Here's the axle seal. There's your part number. Here's your oil seal. Here's your international part number, if you can read it. It's just 380832-4C1. Or you can just go by the national seal, which is what it is. It's the national PATMX. And the number is B-37011-9-BG. That is the national seal number. So if you're looking for the number, that's the number for the seal. So you got oil side. This side's going to go out. The little ridge is going to go in. So, oh, actually, it's going to go like this. So that little ridge is going to be on the outside. This side goes to the little oil. Don't forget to put your bearing in. So it will be quite the pain to remove the seal to get the bearing in later. There. Like this, oil side in. So, I don't have a seal driver big enough for that. What I do have is this rear main seal installer that is basically just the right size. So I'm going to use that. this thing's actually worked out pretty well. I've used, this was that Freedom Racing rear main seal installer that I got for the International DT engines for the 6 1/8 inch crank. So I had the little Max Force seal adapter, which is this little ring there, which makes it flat for those seals. And it's gonna, I've used this quite a bit. I've actually used part of it to put the seal in on that older truck. And obviously stuff like this, it works pretty well. What is this? ST153. Well, I think we're in there. What is that? So we gotta get this back on. I came over here, cleaned up the crank, not the crank, sorry. Cleaned up the wear sealing surface right here. Got all the rust and stuff off of it. This is a two-piece seal, so basically it's a seal, a wear sleeve, and a seal in one. This inside rubber ring will seal on that flange right there, or that wear, that surface right here. And this stays still and it spins inside this seal. So that's that. So I'm gonna put a little gear oil on here. And I'm going to install this, and then we got to put our bearing in, set our preload. The way you're going to set the bearing on this is you're going to tighten the inner nut to 200 foot-pounds while you rotate the hub, and you must rotate the hub a minimum of 5 times, and then you're going to back it off 1 turn. Then you're going to torque it, I believe, to 50 foot-pounds, and then back it off a 1/4 turn, and then you're going to put your locking stuff in, and then you got to torque your outer nut. I'll have to get the torque spec for the outer nut for you. So you don't really want to let this hang on the seal and the bearing, so you want to kind of put it in there and hold it up, and then slip your bearing in real fast so it doesn't pull on it. So this has a synthetic fill, or it's full of synthetic fluid, so you're going to want to put synthetic on top of that for your fill. You don't want to put conventional with synthetic. I guess it doesn't mix right, so I'll keep that in mind. They usually have a tag or something somewhere that tells you what's in it, or if it's synthetic, there'll be a tag that says synthetic in there. At least that's what I've seen. Okay, so let's slip this on. Kind of help the bearings slip on there a little bit better, or easier, so to speak. Come on. And make sure your tools and stuff are clean. You don't want to drop dirt and stuff like that in there. So generally, before we put that outside bearing on, you would want to fill this inner trough with as much gear oil as you can get in there to fill it up. And normally I don't really see these with fill plugs in them. This has a fill plug in it, so it's not a real big deal for this axe or hub to be in particular. I mean, you can do it with a regular one too. It's just you're going to have to jack it up and go back and forth if you don't fill it, and it's going to take a lot more, and it's going to be a little bit more time consuming to get it full. So generally what you need to do is you would fill that hub up inside here between the bearings with gear oil. Then you will fill your differential up so it's topped off, and then you're going to jack up the other side of the truck. I think a minimum of 6 inches, so you can pitch the fluid this way. Then you let it sit that way for a couple of minutes so it fills up this cavity with oil. Then you let it back down, top it off again, do the same thing on this side to the other side. If you did both. If you just did one, it's not really, I'd imagine it's not really a big deal to try to tip it to fill the other side. But anyway, after you get this side full, you're going to put it back level again, and then you're going to top off your differential. So like I say, if you do both sides, then you're going to obviously jack this side up 6 inches and then let it fill the other hub, and then put it back down level, and then fill your differential again. But with this, because I have this fill plug, I'm just going to fill it through the fill plug, and then I'll top off my differential. And I'll probably jack up that side just to make sure I get enough over here like I was supposed to. I'm going to look at the instructions on this one because I usually don't have the fill plug, so I got to see what the differences are. There is a different procedure for that. So let's see. Now there are different ways for the different style of locking nut for these outer hubs. I'll put up photos of it so you can see the different ways, and the how to do it. So we're going to tighten this to 200 foot-pounds while turning the hub. And then after that, we're going to back off the nut one full turn. One turn. Rotate the wheel up. All right. There. Let's see if that is any better. There we go. It's right on now. So I think that loosening up or spinning it after the 200 foot-pounds kind of reset it a little bit in the bearings. So, yep. So, put our outer nut on. And I'm going to need the big torque wrench for this, because I believe the outer nut on this gets torqued to 350 foot-pounds. So I gotta get the bigger torque wrench. There you go. Alright, so it's a little bit odd. The instructions say for a hub with a fill hole, you only have to put in about a half a pint of gear oil to do it, but I don't think that's going to be completely accurate. They're saying like if you don't have a fill hole, you'll need up to 2.5 pints to top off your differential and to get it to the ends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some in here. I'll probably put half the quart in here, and I'll take the fill plug out, and then I'm going to just do it the other way where I'm going to top off the differential, and then I'm going to tip it up to run into here, and then I'm going to top off the differential again, just to make sure I got it in there correctly, because it doesn't, a half a pint, that's only 8 ounces, and it doesn't exactly sound right, because I'm pretty sure I probably got a little more than 8 ounces out of the thing for as much as I had in the catch can. But, so I don't necessarily think that's right. I'm going to do it this way. First I got to put the axle back in. And clean it off. All right. Okay, so I cleaned this flange off here, where the mating surface is against there. Yeah. So I'll take our cones. I'm probably going to go clean these up so they go in there smooth. They've got some rust and stuff on them. Yeah, I'll go clean these up. It's these little cones. I'm going to clean all these up so they go in there good. And we'll put our nuts on and torque them to... Now it depends on the size axle you have and all of that. It also depends on the size nuts you have on the end. These ones in particular, axle shaft to wheel hub nuts. These ones are 15/16 nuts, and I'm going, well, they're not 15/16, but that's the size of the nut. And I'm going to torque these ones to 170 to 190 foot-pounds, so we'll just go 180. Alright, so stick our cones in. They're nice and clean. Ready to go. So we'll stick some of this in there. Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick the whole quart in, and then whatever doesn't get used up will just travel back through the tube like it would when you tip it this way. As I filled that inside section up before on like a front hub, it took almost a quart. Because you're filling it up to like here, and I can't see that only being half a pint. That doesn't make sense to me. Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overfilling. But it should go down the tube just like it would come out the tube. But I'm pretty sure I got at least a quart out of it that drained into that pan when I took it off, because there was quite a bit in there. Definitely wasn't a or definitely wasn't a pint or half a pint. So there's that. Alright, so I took the plug off, and actually some fluid came out, so I jacked this end up. Probably a good 6 inches. I'll let it sit here for a couple minutes, and I'll put it back down and take the plug out, top it off if it's low, and we are done with this side. Or with this hub. I don't have to do two, I just have to do this one because this wheel loosened up. So we got our new wheels, sprayed some Never-Seez on the studs, and yeah, so that's about how you change a hub out on was the International Workstar. This should be all similar. I believe this is a 46,000 pound axle. So I mean, they're similar, but they're not all the same, so you're going to want to make sure you know the axle you have in there and you follow your correct procedures. They do have different attachments or attachment styles and locking styles for the spindle nuts for the bearings. So that's it's a general overview on this particular axle and how to do this. Like I say, they can differ, and there are different styles and different types, so you have to kind of figure out which one you got and kind of follow that procedure. This might not be the procedure for you, but it's a pretty good starting point. So anyway, hope that can help somebody. Thanks for watching.